Hi, I'm Gary White for Channel 6 Central Kentucky Television. I'm here with Laura Schlosser, who's the Marion County School Superintendent, for our Marion County Schools update, see what's going on in our school system here in Marion County. And we have a lot of stuff we're going to talk about with the stuff, but let's start off with something that's kind of timely right now, and that's the sickness issue. Marion County has had sickness with the flu.
Yes.
An issue with that already with a few days. But also right now with the coronavirus, there's a lot of discussion at present regarding that. And as we speak, actually, it's been announced that elementary school in Indiana had a student that is causing that school to have to close for 2 weeks to try and eradicate any possibility of that spreading.
Right.
So let's first talk about the sickness issues that you've had so far, what's been going on with that. And then talk a little bit about a plan that Marion County School District has in case the coronavirus is to show up here.
Okay. So far, Gary, we have been out of school 4 days. We took off a Monday and a Tuesday. We came back on Wednesday. Attendance was not well, and so we actually were out Thursday and Friday. So 4 days for Marion County Public Schools, which puts our last day on Thursday, May the 21st. For staff, the 22nd, and graduation, the 23rd. That's if all things stays the same. And so, we have continued to battle the flu. Not as bad now as it was the time that we had to take off, but we are still seeing some cases of the flu here in our district. So, like you said, over the weekend, we were notified that the first case in Kentucky had been identified in Harrison County. That school district is actually off this week. They are working with their county government and city government, obviously the Center for Disease Control, Public Health, and so on. This morning we actually watched the press conference with the governor. Today at 3:30, Monday, we actually have a live webinar with our acting commissioner, Kevin Brown. He'll be talking to all school superintendents about what this could look like in the event that schools have to close. What I'm happy about is the fact that Marion County Public Schools already has non-traditional instruction in place. So in the event that we needed to use those days, that's something that our community is accustomed to, our students and our teachers. We have only used 2 of our 10 days. Mr. Brown has talked to superintendents through email that there could be a waiver so that school districts who do not have NTI, and Gary, folks would probably be interested to know that there's only around 80, 90 districts that do non-traditional. There's another several districts that do not. There's 172 school districts in the state. So for those districts who are not accustomed to doing that, they may have to come up with a plan. Another positive that Marion County Public Schools have is the fact that we are a 1-to-1 school district. So that means we can send devices home with students. Currently, our 8th through 12th grade bring those devices home. This morning we had a leadership team meeting with all of our administrators, and we talked about the fact that in the event that we had to close for a longer period of time than we're accustomed to, which is normally just a few days, that we would actually be sending devices home with kids. Now, we're not going to send devices home with a primary age, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade, but we could send devices home with children as young as 3rd grade. They use those often, so that's a possibility. Now, what parents are going to want to know, and the community, is we will be sending out a message to our staff, and then we will send out a message to the community. We're going to take extra precaution in regards to cleaning. We're going to prepare for our NTI days in the event that we need to do that. We want to make sure that we're providing a consistent message when folks call. So if you call Marion County High School, they have the same message that Glasscock Elementary is doing. And then the other part that we want folks to know is the fact that we will update folks as we receive information. On Thursday, the governor has asked that all communities to include your health department and other county officials, including the school, will meet on Thursday morning. So that'll give us an opportunity as a county to talk about what this looks like. Our Department of Education has also worked on a waiver in the event that we had to be out for an extended amount of time, that we could provide food service for our children.
Right.
So,
and funding potentially for doing that too.
Yes, exactly. And so you would actually have to have a waiver. So for example, in the summer, you know, we serve a lot of meals. There's actually an application process that you have to go through and training that you have to go through, and then those meals are reimbursed. And so you're exactly right. And I'm sure most folks know that the governor has declared a state of emergency, and that is to get federal funds funneling through Kentucky as these kinds of things come up.
So when we talk about the sickness that you had, excuse me, the 4 days that you closed, the reason for that is there's a large number, but if you go under a certain number with enrollment, then it also affects your funding scheme as well, correct?
Exactly. Schools, what they look at is your average daily attendance. And so, you know, out of the number of days that our kids come to school, 174 days, you know, what we're looking at is the more we can address, you know, a healthy environment, you know, you're going to get more revenue and things like that. And obviously we want kids to be healthy, but you know, when you have statistics like only 80% of your students are coming, you know, not only is that affecting your funding, you also have to think about instruction as well. Right. And so if you're a classroom teacher and you have, you know, only 80% are there, then 20% of your kiddos are missing out on that instruction. So yes, it does you know, affect funding. Now, we are allowed to drop low days, so that you know, helps with your average. But yeah, it's been a tough winter. Yeah.
So hopefully we won't be visited by the coronavirus, but it is, as you said, already in Kentucky, and over just a couple of days, it's been compounding itself in different areas. So we'll wait and see what happens there, and if that is the case. Has there been talk also as precautionary to prohibit mass gatherings, for instance, ball games or stuff of that nature? Has there been any discussion of those things?
That has not been discussed. However, I am going to say that there is conversation in regards to, has anyone canceled those kinds of events? So I would say that that'll be on a day-by-day basis, depending on, you know, if you have 4 confirmed cases today, you know, maybe if tomorrow that looks different, like you said, you know, you hope that it dwindles rather than increases, but I would say depending on what that looks like will depend on what kind of recommendations are made. Currently, the governor is telling superintendents that they are not expecting us to cancel school, but in the event that that we feel like that we need to, I mean, he supports that.
So we'll keep you up to date on how that evolves and how that's going on. But also, let's talk about some more positive news that's going on in the school district. And Marion County School District has received recognition recently.
Yes.
Right? I want to talk a little bit about.
Right. We were selected to be one of the innovative districts in Kentucky, and there are school visits, and we were actually identified as a site for people around the state of Kentucky to come visit. So next Thursday, we will have visitors from around the state to come visit our district, visit our schools, talk to our students and our staff about the innovative things that's going on here in Marion County. So, you know, I think it's an honor. I hope the folks in the community are excited about the fact that there'll be people from around the state to come visit. I know a lot of times we feel like that we actually have to leave our community to see some really cool things, and I think it's pretty awesome that they can actually travel to us this time.
Absolutely. What are some of the areas of innovation that you're going to be touching upon that Marion County is kind of leading the way?
Well, I think our student leadership is definitely something that is hands down stand out. We have student ambassadors in several of our schools, along with Leader in Me, and then also the work that we're doing at our Area Technology Center. While that is a state-funded school, we actually have several Marion County High School staff that actually are in that building, and we have math and reading. And so if a child goes to school there, you can actually take your math and your English class there. They can take those classes in context of their coursework. And then the fact that we have 8th grade students that are attending class at our Area Technology Center, we're only one of 2 districts in the state that allows 8th grade students to go ahead and start exploring those kinds of things. So, you know, just a couple of things. I could go on and on. Obviously, the Dream Bus will make its debut. While the Dream Bus has become second nature for us, not every school district actually has an innovative approach to taking learning out to our communities. And, you know, I still think that it's pretty awesome the fact that our kids help design the inside, the outside, and they actually help put those kinds of features in place. So that's a couple things.
Yes, lots of stuff going on. Now, also, you had an event recently with your reading celebration that's been going on for several years now.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And how that turned out well?
It turned out great. That was last Tuesday. It was under the big top, all about reading. Gary, I'm going to say at least 1,000 kiddos and families were there, and we actually had a circus. We gave away tons of books. I did some face painting. One of the students said, "Miss Schlosser, you're really good." And I said, "Well, after 7 years of practicing, it's about time that I get a lot better with face painting." But there were so many people there. We had a petting zoo. Our library media specialists go above and beyond. We had great giveaways, hot dogs, popcorn, information, anything from children who are very young, who maybe need a little bit of extra help. We had some cute backpacks and hats that we gave away, stickers and pencils, our health department. But you know, again, when you talk about what makes us innovative, you know, to say that you're going to have 1,000 folks come to Marion County High School on Tuesday evening, I mean, that's a lot of people after school. I'm going to say that we had at least 50 student volunteers there. So, you know, it's one thing for adults to be committed to the cause, but it's another thing when we have our young leaders, the next generation Marion County, actually being a part of that work. Because there's going to come a day where we step aside and they fill in and step in for us. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity for them. It was a great event. We've been doing it for several years. I think it's a great opportunity to celebrate, you know, all things reading. And so we do that in conjunction of Read Across America Week. And, you know, a lot of people did a lot of cool things, a lot of principals reading, fun dress-up days. And so it was a great event. It's always a lot of fun.
Now, also, you have a discussion at the meeting today, excuse me, about the facilities plan that we've been talking about for a while now. So tell me, there was a plan that was proposed by the local committee, is that correct?
Yes, and so the local committee has submitted a plan for the board's review. And so tonight at the high school, 6 o'clock, that discussion will take place. The agenda items are to discuss the current plan. The plan will either be recommended to move forward, or it will be sent back to the committee with comments. In the event that the committee work is, if it's moved forward, then they would actually appoint a hearing officer, and that is based on the regulation that goes along with this progress. The plan, I'm sure most folks would like to know what the current plan is. Currently, the local planning committee recommended to the board that the district facilities plan would include a wing that would be built in conjunction with the high school. The wing would encompass the 8th and 9th grade. There would be common space that would be shared between the high school and the night academy, and that would be things like your cafeteria, your kitchen, your library media. The high school would be renovated. We would have 3 elementary schools. The 3 elementary schools would be located at Glasscock, West Marion, and the Night Academy. Glasscock and West Marion would receive renovations in this plan. There would also be renovations with the middle school as well. When you look at the district facilities plan, it is an overall holistic approach. The regulation requires you to look at all facilities, and you look at things like HVAC, roofing, renovations. And so, you know, they also have things on there like our previous one had, like a track. Well, the track's been renovated, but that was, we did not use bonding money for that. That was money out of our general fund. So, you know, that's currently what the plan looks like. Again, the board will decide whether to move forward with this plan, and if not, they will make recommendations to the committee. The committee will then look at those recommendations and then make a decision, and then it would go back to the board again.
So in that plan, then Lebanon Elementary and Calvary would no longer be elementary schools?
They would not.
Would they be utilized as something else?
That would be a decision that the board would have to make about what you would do with those 2 facilities, and that would be part of that. They are listed on the facilities plan as transitional. So in other words, what would they transition into, and the board would have to make that decision.
And then the board, is it the board's decision or the committee's decision? Who proposes where the current Calvary Elementary School students, would they go to West Marion? Would they go to Glasscock? Would they go to? That's
a good question, because what we have talked about is that you would have 3 elementary schools, so you're going to have to redistrict. And I think one of the things that we have talked about over the course of this past several months is that regardless of what plan, there will need to be redistricting for our elementary school students. So that would be a different committee that the board would appoint, and then that committee again would make a recommendation to the board, and so, you know, there would be boundary lines drawn based on where the schools are located.
So through this whole process then, through the whole facilities, the redistricting, what have you, the board itself is not the board appoints committees who make decisions. The board gets to vote whether or not to approve those suggestions, but they're not the ones that themselves implement the policy for where to redistrict or where to build. Is that correct then?
No, the board actually will make the decision.
Okay.
So, you know, now when I say that typically the Board of Education would appoint a committee to look at this. They would not have to.
Okay, so they could do it themselves.
They could do that themselves.
Right.
However, our board generally wants public our board wants public input. I'm not going to say generally, that's too general. But our board would want, I believe, committee input. Then they, just the same way with this local planning committee, they're going to take that committee's recommendation and then they would make a decision.
Right.
You know, are you going to approve what the committee has recommended, or would you want to send it back, or would you want to do something different? Now, you know, with the local planning committee, there is a regulation that dictates, you know, how this flow
right.
of authority goes.
That's a requirement.
Yes. Mm-hmm. With redistricting, you know, there's not a requirement, so it would just be based on how the board wants to operate and what that looks like.
So the vote will be, a vote will occur at the board meeting this evening.
Yes.
Regarding the local district plan, whether to approve or whether not to approve. Is there an option, is it like, do they have a line item veto, basically, where they can approve some of it and not, or is it all or nothing?
Basically, they're going to either vote for yes, or they will send it back with comments.
Okay.
So it'll be, it's going to be yes, we approve, or no, we don't. But if they don't approve that, then the regulation requires that they provide comments.
Right.
In other words, they could say, we like specific parts and parts that we don't.
It's like a good teacher who gets suggestions as to how to improve if they
Yes.
don't get a passing grade or whatever.
Right.
So, and we'll keep you up to date on that as well. If it is a go, and it is go ahead, the time frame for actually seeing ground.
Well, that's a good question, because there would actually be we would appoint a hearing officer, and then there would be a hearing. And so I'm going to say the next step would be after it's the final approval by the board. You're gonna have to make sure you have an architect, and you're going to do some programming. You could still be looking at 6 months to a year before ground's broke.
Okay. But we'll keep you up to date on what's going on with that.
Okay.
So that's some of the stuff that's going on with the Marion County School District. Anything else we need to share?
Like we said, make sure you keep your hands washed.
Right.
Follow us on our website, our Facebook page. We want to be good listeners. We want to provide you with most up-to-date, accurate information that we have. Our number one priority is to make sure kids are healthy and safe, and we want to make sure that when they leave, they're ready for that next grade level. So,
great.
Whatever we can do.
I've been talking with Marion County School Superintendent Laura Schlosser. This is Gary White for Channel 6 Central Kentucky Television.